guys doing today? Excellent. I feel like that's how every YouTube video starts. Hey guys, how you doing today? But that's how I just started this service. So hey, good morning. I'm not Jason, so if you're confused, he didn't gain 30 pounds and grow a beard. My name's Mike. I'm one of the pastors here on staff. And we are in the middle of, actually, we're the second week of this series called Summer Mixtape. And man, how many of you remember when you were in the 90s and you had a girl you liked and you made that mixtape, you know? The one that was gonna like get you those smooches, you know? And so we're like going through all the songs from the 90s that we love so much. And so I had a plethora of songs to choose from. And I chose a weird one because I'm me, and it's here we are. And we'll get to that in a second. But a couple things to let you know about. Number one, if you're tech savvy and you didn't get a worship guide on the way in, or maybe you did and you're just still tech savvy, you can go to www.access.church, and it's a great website. It has all of the announcements that Stephen just talked about with School Supply July, but it also has all of the message notes for today. So if you wanted to follow along that way and you don't enjoy writing with a pen, that's so 2000 and late, you can just follow along on your phone. And so it's simple that way. But we're in the middle of this series called Summer Mixtape, and when you guys watch that, we call it a bumper video, the video before the message, do you guys get like those 90s feels? Like all those, oh man, legitimately, there's so many good options for songs, and I thought about doing something like Smells Like Teen Spirit from Nirvana, and make it like smell like Jesus Spirit, and that was just weird, and so I decided against that very quickly. But there's so many things. And if you notice in that video, I tried to hide the dancing baby in as many times as I could get away with. And so it was just fun. And so like I love the 90s. And here's something I've realized about myself. Again, I could have chosen from a billion different artists, and there's just so much good music in the 90s. But here's something I've realized about myself. I've realized that I connect best with music when there's some sort of visual to it. And in the 90s, they were really popular for, or 80s and 90s, really popular for music videos. And that's not exactly what I'm talking about. Like for me, when there's like a song in a movie or a song on a TV show that really fits well with the feeling of the movie or the TV show I'm watching, that's when like songs really just like, I fall in love with the song. And so, for example, the song Fix You by Coldplay. The first time I ever heard that song was on the TV show Scrubs. And like now I have this like mental picture of JD running down the hallway trying to save somebody's life when Fix You is playing, you know? And so like for me, that's the way I figured out that I connect best with music. And so instead of picking a song from like a band like a U2 or Nirvana or any of those great bands, I decided to go with the song from a movie. And so think to yourself, what movies have the best songs in them? Obviously, Disney movies. And so I'm starting with the Disney movie here. So we've still got a lot of Disney movies. And just for a second, the person next to you, tell them your favorite 90s Disney movie with the soundtrack, just based solely on the soundtrack, the best 90s movie. So you got like The Lion King, you got Toy Story, it's got Randy Newman songs in it. You got Aladdin, that's a great one. So you got all those options. And unless you said 1995's The Goofy Movie, you're wrong, okay? 1995's The Goofy Movie has by far and away the best soundtrack. And if you've never seen a Goofy movie, just go home right now and watch it. It's the best, legitimately. No, leave. Just kidding. Please stay. Oh man, that'd be horrible. But the Goofy Movie is great, okay? And it's just this movie. It's about a father and son who aren't connecting, and they go on this road trip together so that they can go fishing together. Or that's the dad's intention. But the son, he has this dream, this aspiration, the one that I have. And so that's why I connected so much with this movie, because he wanted to be a rock star or a pop star. And so, like, 10-year-old me was all in on this. Like, he's trying to get the girl, he's trying to be a pop star, and I wanted that. And God bless my parents. I legitimately watched this movie every day for a month, at least once a day. And so, I really feel like God is punishing me now because I've watched Cars like 4 billion times this month. And so, my 2-year-old loves it. And so it's all centered around this, and it's this rock star named Powerline, okay? And actually, we've got some of the clips from it here, and like, it's the coolest thing. And so to 10-year-old Mike, I wanted to be this guy. I wanted to be the guy on the screen, and I wanted to be that guy trying to get the girl and all this stuff. And at the very end of the movie, they go through all these weird Disney movie things, and they end up at this big concert for the guy named Powerline. And Powerline legitimately has to be the coolest musician ever, because what happens is Goofy and Max end up on stage like unannounced. And does he get bad about it? No, he just goes along with it and starts dancing with them. That's the coolest. And so at the end, they sing this song. It's called Eye to Eye, and it's all about kind of what's happening in the movie, this father and son who aren't seeing eye to eye. And at the end, guess what? They start to see eye to eye. Come on. That's fantastic. And so for me, like the perfect cast. Come on. Listen, go home right now and watch this. It's so good. And here at Access, we're all about being generous with things. And so Stephen just talked about it a second ago. We're generous with our time and our money. But maybe this morning, maybe we could talk about another way we could be generous in our lives. Maybe we could be generous with our assumptions. Maybe we could be generous with the way that we see people. Because, and that's actually our first point, in our journey to be more like Jesus, we need to see people the way that Jesus sees people. Too often we get stuck in things, and honestly, I know for myself, I can be a negative person, and Jesus wants us to be a different kind of people. He wants us to be the kind of people that see people the way he sees them and loves people the way he loves them. Actually, he says this to his disciples in the book of John. He says this. He says, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And as I try to become more like Jesus, I want more and more to do things the way that Jesus did them, to live the way that Jesus lived, to love people the way that Jesus loved people. And how did he love people? He saw them through God's eyes. And so that's how I want to do it. I want to see people through the way that Jesus sees people, and I want to interact with people the way that Jesus interacted with people. And it starts with the smallest things. When we're interacting with people, it starts with just these baby things that coming from you might mean the world to somebody else. How many of you guys were here for Father's Day a few weeks ago when we did all those dumb dad jokes? Do you guys remember those dad jokes? Man, I love dad jokes. I'm a dad now, and so I have fully leaned into dad jokedom, and it's bad. And actually, one of my favorite dad jokes, we didn't do it on Father's Day, and so I actually saved it for you guys this morning. It's this one. It's, what did 0 say to 8? What did 0 say to 8? Nice belt. Let it sink in for a second. It's that bad, yeah. And when we're out and when we're interacting with people and people in our neighborhoods, the people around us, it doesn't have to be these huge things. I feel like when we try to serve God, we feel like we have to go big all the time. We have to be the guy on the stage. We have to be up in front. But no, it's the little things. It's nice belt. Like legitimately. If you're having a hard time starting off with this, just go up to somebody and say nice belt. It'll completely throw them off, especially if they're not wearing a belt. It's just the little things that we can be encouraging to each other. We can love each other the way that Jesus loved them. And it's the smallest things. Nice belt. Actually, in the Bible, Jesus talks about something like that. Let's go with our next verses here in Matthew. Jesus is talking, he told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it's the smallest of all the seeds, yet when it grows, it's the largest of the garden plants, and it becomes a tree, so that birds come and perch in its branches. Now here's the thing, let's leave that up for a second. This parable is not about the seed. It's about what it grows into. And a word from you, a kind word, a loving word that speaks into somebody's life, it can be something that grows into something huge. And it's all because you are laser focused on people and loving on people like Jesus loved them. And it's the smallest things. Nice belt. And it grows into something huge that could change their life forever. And it just starts with the smallest thing. The first step. It's just taking a step. Nice belt. And as we continue to grow and we continue to love on each other, we realize that the small things that we're doing are so huge because we need each other. That's another point in your notes there. We need each other. And here's why. I figured this out about myself, and it's probably true about you too, that in your life, you probably see yourself through a certain lens. You see yourself through a certain thing, but you're not always seeing yourself completely correctly. I know in my life that I mess up all the time. That even when Katrina and I were going through premarital counseling, my dad was the guy who married us, and like his one requirement for people who are getting married is he wants them to go through premarital counseling, not because there's anything wrong with the relationship, but just so that we could see things in our relationship and with each other that maybe we don't see in ourselves. And so we talk about things like our money and how we're going to like manage our household and all those different things. But one thing that the guy who did our premarital counseling did is he had us take the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. Has anybody ever done that before? ENFP and all those numbers, R2D2, I don't know what they all are. But so he had us take that personality test. And so my wife took one. We both took them individually. And then the next session, we came back and we compared them. And so we looked through them. And the thing is, in all those personality things, there's not wiggle room, but sometimes you'll need to like, just based on the stage of life you're in, you can retake them, and maybe things have changed in your life. And so when we took it, there's one of the things that's, it's either I or E, means introvert or extrovert. And so our guy asked, he's like, do you feel like any of your situations are wrong, or like any of your categories are wrong? And looking at mine, I was like, you know what? I really feel like I'm an introvert. And legitimately, he was one of my college professors doing our premarital counseling, and he laughed in my face, and so did my wife. And so, because I'm the guy, when I come to a party, I want to hug everybody. Don't shake my hand. Give me a hug. And I'm loud. I'm sorry. And so if this is hurting your ears this morning, there's earplugs in the lobby. But like I just love people, and I feed off of people. But in my brain, I was thinking, you know what? I really enjoy staying home and watching TV. I'm an introvert. And so, or I'd see a meme online that says like, I would rather sleep in than go grocery shopping. And I was like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm an introvert. And so in my brain, I was like, oh, I'm an introvert now. And so, but they both laughed at me because that is not me. And sometimes we don't see ourselves. And so as Christians and as friends who are loving each other and loving the people around us, we need to be the people that speak into each other's lives. And Jesus in the Bible was huge and great at that. He would see people like, or God in general in the Bible, he would wreck people's lives by just telling them who they were, not just based on their past. If we judge ourselves based on our past, we are never going to move anywhere. But when we look through God's eyes and we can see and tell people who they're becoming, that's when things change. Like in the Old Testament, God tells this guy Abram, who is 100 years old, I'm going to make you the father of a nation. And he has no kids, and his wife is 80. And God says, you are going to be the father of a nation. I'm changing your name to Abraham, which means you are the father of nations. And because of that turning point, our lives are forever changed. Moses in the Bible, he was a guy with a speech impediment, and he couldn't talk, and he's like, God, I can't do this. And God says, no, you are a leader, and you are going to change. You're going to take my people out of slavery and into freedom, into a great life. My favorite one is Peter. Peter, he's just a wild card all the time. He just messes up all over the place. And he speaks into Peter's life, and before that, his name wasn't Peter, it was Simon. But he changes his name. He says, Peter, you are a rock, and I'm going to build my church on people like you. I'm going to build my church. And what does Peter do? He goes and messes up. He denies Jesus. He falls in the water. But he says, no, you're a rock. He speaks into who he is. And I'm trying to do that in my life too. And maybe you're trying to do it too. I, with my son Ben, and pretty soon with our next son Will, I want to speak into them. I'm like, Ben, you are smart. Ben, you are strong. Ben, you are potty trained. And so I'm speaking things into existence that are not quite there yet. Oh, gosh, please pray for me. But when we speak into each other's lives, and it's not based on our mess-ups, it's not based on our screw-ups, but it's based on who we are in God and who we are in Christ. You are strong. Just look at one of your friends in the eye and tell them what they need to hear. Not who their mess up, not their mistakes, but who they are, because we need each other. And when we can begin to speak into each other's lives, and when we can begin to not just look at our past and speak to what we've been going through, we can realize this, that we are better together. I know in my life that my life is better because of the people around me. You know that for yourself too. And if you're in the wrong crowd that's speaking the wrong way, maybe it's a little bit different. But when we're around people who are just laser focused on who Jesus wants us to be and speaking the things that Jesus wants to in our lives, nice belt. That's when things change. I've had this dream for a long time to get on a TV show, maybe you too. And so there's several TV shows I would love to get on. Actually, my brother and I recently auditioned to be on The Amazing Race, and there's like 1,000,000,001 chance that that's going to happen. Other TV shows I would have loved to have gotten on. I would have loved to have gotten on Double Dare. Man, I want to pick that green nose so bad and pull that flag out of there, but it's not going to happen probably. Another show is, I would love to be on The Price is Right. And I love The Price is Right. And when you're in elementary school and you're home on a sick day, Price is Right is amazing at 11 o'clock. Am I right? Yeah. Now, one thing I love about Price is Right is this, that you got these people on stage and let's say they're trying to get a brand new blender or something, or a brand new car. And so the entire audience is just yelling things out at them like, you need to do $200, $400, $4 million, $1. But if you look at the people, they are just laser focused on one person in the audience. It's the person they came with. And in our lives, we need to be able to differentiate between the voices that are speaking to us and focus on the correct voices. And I know that in times in our lives, there's times where we want to separate ourselves completely and not listen to any voices. And I don't know if that seems like it's an overcorrection. Instead of pushing people out, we need to be kind of like sea otters. Have you ever seen what sea otters do when they sleep? Sea otters, they actually hold hands. I feel like we should be playing Sarah McLachlan right now. Oh, cute little guys. Sea otters hold hands when they sleep so that no one drifts away. We are so much better together. And when we look around in our community, when we look around at our friends and we see people that are going through things, we need to be people that are pulling each other closer instead of pushing away. And when other people are pushing away, we need to pull each other closer. There was actually this study done about people, and it's actually a study that I've chosen to live my life by. Here, let's read the results from their things. It says, researchers found that the most isolated people were 3 times more likely to die than those with strong relational connections. People who had bad health habits, such as smoking, poor eating habits, obesity, or alcohol use, but strong social ties lived significantly longer than people who had great health habits, but who were isolated. In other words, and my favorite part, it is better to eat Twinkies with good friends than to eat broccoli alone. Let's bow our heads. I'm just kidding. We're better together. It's better to eat Twinkies with friends than broccoli alone. Hey, nice belt. We are so much better together. And when you're down and you feel broken and you feel like pushing people away, you need to pull those voices in that are speaking life to you. And when you see your friends who are down and broken and need somebody, but they're pushing away, you need to pull them in closer. I honestly feel like our community should be like crowd surfing at a concert. That when somebody's down, we lift them up and we do not let go until 5 people behind us have them. That we are the kind of community that lifts each other up, that we find people that are hurting and broken and we love on them. That we speak into their lives. Nice belt. Actually, at Access, literally everything we do is built around that. At Access, we only do 4 things. Let's put them on the screen. We do weekend services, and so you're here. You're in a room full of people who love you. We do Growth Track, which is a class full of people that are joining our community and want to be a part of this. We do Team Access, where on a Sunday you can literally every other Sunday or every Sunday you can be with people that love you and are focusing their lives. And Access groups is literally people getting together, joining together with the same focus, the same heartbeat, that we are better together. That's actually our theme for Access groups for this entire year, that we're better together. And this is just a quick caveat. We actually just started our summer semester of groups. And maybe right now in your head and in your heart, you feel like the person that I talked about that feels broken, that feels completely disconnected. Find an Access group. Find people that will love on you, that will speak into your life. And right now is literally the best time to jump in. They just started. In the lobby today, there's a sign out there. Find a group, sign up today. Find life, find people that love you. And maybe this all feels a little weird to you. Maybe you don't know where to start. Maybe you feel like still that you need to do the big things, that the small things just aren't enough. Let me encourage you to just take your next step. We actually recently, up until recently, our mission statement was, we exist to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus. And that's a great mission statement, but actually we changed our mission statement recently, and we changed it to this. We help people take their next step in their relationship with Jesus. So what is that next step for you? What is that next step? It doesn't have to be the big things, but what is your next step? Maybe for you, it's just starting with nice belt. Maybe for you, it's finding the person that you know is broken and pulling them in. Maybe for you, it's taking that next step towards somebody, towards a voice that you trust, towards a voice that's speaking life into you. And even though there is so much pain and so much darkness, taking a step into the light. What is your next step? I know this for me, and I see it all the time in you and the people in our church, and I see it in our groups. I'm actually the guy who's in charge of all of our groups, so this is a little bit of a selfish ploy. Join a group. But I see the life change that happens in groups. It's easy on a Sunday morning to come in, slip in, and then slip out and not say a word to anybody. And a church of any size, like you could go to a church with 10 people and sit in the back and just jet. But here at Access, we believe that life change happens in groups. And so maybe your next step is to find a group and find life. I see it all the time. I see people who've been coming to Access for years, and when they go to a group, the lights turn on for them, because it's not just a room full of rows of faces of people you don't know, but it's faces of people you love and people that are connected to you and people that are laser focused on loving you back. I actually literally just, it's been 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a phone call with a guy that said that they had been coming to Access for a long time, and that just through life stuff that him and his wife just really felt disconnected, not from each other, but from God and from situations, but because of the small things, the nice belts that happened in their Access group, that not only has their relationship with God come alive, but their relationship with the people around them. Just because of something small, a small conversation, a word coming from you could mean the world to somebody. And maybe you take your next step and you mess up. Of course you'll mess up, you're you. But keep trying, keep taking that next step, keep plugging away. Nice belt. It just starts with the smallest things. A word from you could grow into something huge. And because we're this community of people that are laser focused on loving people, that's when it grows into something big. We're so much better together. Let's pray together. God, I thank you for this group of people. I thank you, number one, for your love for us, that we can in turn reflect out, that we can give out so freely, God. God, I pray for those of us who feel lost, that we don't even know where we would even begin, God. Just help us take that next step, to find somebody who's hurting and give them a word of love, a word of encouragement. To God, for those of us who feel broken, God, I pray that you would open up the eyes of people around us to just love on each other, to find those words of encouragement that we need at the exact right time. And when we feel the most down and the most broken, God, that you would send people our way in our community that would just love on us. And God, I pray you would open our eyes to everyone around us, whether in church, at our jobs, in our homes, and give us the words to speak life, speak your love, speak not about our past, God, but speak what you have for us. And because of that, our lives will be so much better because of what you're doing in our community, what you're doing in us. God, we thank you for your love. And maybe this morning you've come to church, maybe this is your first time at a church, or maybe it's your first time in a very long time, and some of these concepts just sound weird to you. feel off, that there could be people who want to speak life and love into you. And maybe you feel so broken right now, and you need the love of God in your life. And you want to start a relationship with this God who just bleeds love for you. And if that's you this morning, I'm gonna ask you to just take your next step right here, right now, and invite Jesus to be the Lord of your life. And it's just as simple as starting off with a prayer, and you can repeat this after me in your head and your heart, or out loud if you want to. God, I pray that you would come into my life. Jesus, be my Lord and Savior. Lead me, God. In Jesus' name, amen.